Hey guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica and I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at itsjacino. And I'm trying to figure out why I couldn't hear that intro. You guys let me know if you guys could hear the intro or not. I couldn't hear it. But can you guys hear me? Can you see me? Are you there? Just let me know if you guys can hear me and see me. But you guys, I'm tired. I am tired. And not like I was yesterday where I was kind of tired of can you guys hear me? Make sure you guys can hear me. But yesterday I was tired because I had been out with my old ass. Like I was out. But today I'm tired. We're talking about Aubameyang again. And now this time he's been stripped of the captaincy. And I'm just kind of like, when will it end? Why can't we just talk about the football? I swear no other team has this much level of like drama. And so now I'm just like, I just need it to be done. I mean, it's hard enough being an Arsenal fan. It's hard enough. Okay. The banter is constant, the disappointment is endless. But then you add this heaping pile of ABBA drama. And it's just like, again, so here we are again talking about our highest paid player that just signed a new contract being the source of a lot of bullshit. And now, Arsenal Twitter has, exploded. And now we're going to talk about it. So I'm sure the majority of what we're going to talk about is the Aubameyang thing. Now that he's been stripped, there's been a lot of interesting conversations happening that I personally want to touch on. And then West Ham preview because we have a really important game tomorrow. Go figure. So make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel. Just going to remind you guys that tomorrow Arsenal Vision will be doing a live stream before the West Ham game. So make sure you guys tune into that. Those are always a lot of fun. And yeah, so I guess for me, like my my real thoughts are just kind of like, I feel like it's important not to conflate two different arguments here. And I feel like it's difficult to do that because the internet basically tells you that you have to either be Arteta in or Arteta out. And subsequently, every decision that Arteta makes, if you're Arteta in, has to be right. And every single decision Arteta makes, if you're Arteta out, needs to be wrong. I think for me, I'm a little bit more like halfway, like a little bit more like, well, what he's done in terms of on the pitch, not playing to Aubameyang's strengths, I think is a different conversation than is Arteta right for disciplining Aubameyang. I feel there's a lot of conflation of the two, and it's like, well, because I don't like Arteta or I don't think he's the right guy, he should just let Aubameyang off of the hook. And so I'm going to find these arguments of, it's going to disrupt the dressing room, he's going to lose the dressing room, it's going to affect us on the pitch, and all big players get treated differently and he just doesn't know how to manage. When I tend to feel like if this was any other manager that people really rated, like a Conte or a Klopp or Pep, nobody would be questioning it. But because it's Arteta and there is a lot of, you know, diverse opinions about where you stand with him, especially now, because it's very touchy at the moment after the Everton game and the Manchester United game. This is a real kind of, it's one of those where it could go either way based on how you feel about Arteta, not necessarily how you truly feel about Aubameyang and what he's done over the last couple of months. So it's not just that he didn't come back on time from France seeing his mom. It's the other issues that were there as well, and some of them didn't I didn't even know about, like that he didn't show up for COVID testing before a Europa League game. We knew about the being late to the North London Derby, but it wasn't the first time that he was late. And then this one, and then there was another one as well on there. I'm like forgetting because it was so many, but he had at least four, issues. And so at this point, I feel like if this were any other player, if it was Granit Xhaka, we'd be like really going jugular, like get him out, but if it's a bombing, so it feels a little bit different. But yeah, I just for me, I don't want to confuse the two things. Do I think that Arteta has made his life a lot more difficult, not playing to Aubameyang's strengths, knowing that he had him for at least 18 more months, and he's your captain, and you were a big part of him resigning? Absolutely. I think that was a difficult ask to ask Aubameyang, a striker in every sense of the word. Somebody who is innately selfish because of being a striker. You kind of have to be that way, and asking him to play as basically like a number 10 or a build-up person in this system and setting up goals for Emil Smith Rowe and Saka. I think doing that was always going to be a tough ask. And so I thought we were seeing a little bit of maybe a less interested Aubameyang over the last couple of games. But that being said, what happens off of the pitch in terms of the rules that are set aside, not only just general rules, but COVID protocols, I think they have to be t- they have to be enforced. They just have to, no matter who it is, especially the COVID protocols. I find that to be strange that anybody would say, you know what, we should be more lenient on Aubameyang when he's broken COVID protocols. And whether I don't know, I don't want to get too political in here, but it's it's a virus that has been killing millions of people. And so we want to keep everybody safe, and it's up to like the club and the players and the manager and everybody to uphold these protocols, and he's broken those. So this isn't just about him being late because he was getting a haircut. There's some other things going on that I feel like are just, if anybody should be abiding by these protocols, it should be the captain, and he should be holding people accountable. But he's not even doing it. So I just find it strange that I see this like, well, just, a little suspension here and it would be fine, no big deal. Obviously, suspensions and fines have not worked. And so maybe there needs to be a little bit of a harsher punishment. Is it coming at a great time? Absolutely not, but it's never going to be a good time. There's never going to be calm waters for Arsenal Football Club. As long as we're not winning titles, we're always going to be kind of in that weird period. So I personally feel like ripping off the band-aid and just stripping of the captaincy is probably the last step. So, yeah, but there's a lot of different sides to the arguments, and I do hear people that say like, well, what if this disrupts the locker room? And so there will be some it's going to be interesting to see what happens tomorrow, but I do feel as though there's a little bit of, okay, well, if this disrupts the locker room, then of course Arteta was wrong. I think it's still on Aubameyang regardless. He's 32 years old. When you have a job, regardless to what you think this is a job, and he's getting paid to do something, and there are things in his contract that he hasn't done. So you're going to get punished for it regardless. And so, you know, I don't know. It's just one of those where I'm like, I can't really see how this could be looked at as anything other than a bombing, not being not taking the club serious, not taking the team serious, not taking the rules serious, and how anybody could look at this and say, you know what, Arteta probably should have done something different. There's an argument around, whether or not it could have been done behind closed doors. I'm not sure what world we're living in, but this is Arsenal Football Club. And not only is this Arsenal Football Club, but it's Arsenal Football Club being filmed by Amazon. There was absolutely no way that this could have been done behind closed doors. And even if he had decided, you know, not to put it out there on his own, then when Saturday rolled around, I'm not Saturday, tomorrow rolled around and he didn't have the captain's armband, and not only that, he wasn't in the team, then the media could create their own stories around what happened. So Arsenal probably decided to take control of the narrative. Had he not said anything and the media just ran with it would have been the same thing. It would have been, you know what? I don't know who's calling me. I don't know you. Um, it would have been, well, why didn't he just say the truth so that the media couldn't make up their own thing? Do you see what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, come on. Like, come on. There's absolutely no way that this could have been handled behind closed doors. There's just no way. So for me, it's just we're not Brighton, we're not Fulham, we're not one of these clubs that can just have things like this happen and nobody really gives a shit. People are dying. People are dying to see to have things that they can talk about. And so Arsenal is one of the biggest clubs. We have one of the biggest online presence in the world. And so having something like this come out, you kind of have to get ahead of it and make sure that you control the narrative so that people don't just make up things. So this keeping it behind closed doors and not talking about it, not putting pressure on Aubameyang. How about hold Aubameyang like he's not a child. He's not a child. Hold him accountable. Like, hold him accountable, So it's just the nature of the beast. He gets paid 18 million a year and he's breaking rules that are easy to follow, that everybody else in the club can follow, that other teams are following. So it's like, I just don't know how I can say that I feel like Arteta's done something wrong when I know that you can't handle it behind closed doors because it's Arsenal Football Club. He's been fined and you know, taken out of the team before. He's 32 years old. He's the captain of the football club. And so I just don't see where Arteta comes in here where you're like, well, he could have done, I think a lot of this comes from I don't trust Arteta. I don't trust Arteta, you know, and because I don't trust him, every decision that he makes is kind of like I have to question it or challenge it, and that's just kind of what I think is going on. But let me see what you guys are saying. Um, and again, I just want to say this one more time that I'm not saying that Aubameyang should not have went to go see his mom. I think that that's a weird thing that people are trying to put out there that Arsenal fans that feel like Aubameyang was in the wrong are somehow these evil, like, oh, he shouldn't be able to go see his mom when he's sick. No, like, no, that's not what we're saying. Actually, the club even said it was okay for him to go take care of his personal matters, but he had to come back at a certain time and he didn't. No, he didn't miss practice or training or whatever, but there was a time that he had to be back. And so it's not just, well, he got there on time. That's very similar to saying, well, he was late to the North London Derby, but he made it right before we ran out onto the pitch. Like there's a reason why there's times there, and I just don't understand why it would be different for Aubameyang. And he should be more responsible because he's the captain. Like now, here's the thing, is if he was just the regular player and he was just a bombing the striker, of course I wouldn't care as much because I think that that's about who he is anyway. He's always been this guy that thinks about himself, loves to be flashy, loves to do his own thing, doesn't care if he's on time, whoop-de-whoop. That changes when you become the captain. So maybe taking this away from him alleviates the pressure for him to have to abide by the rules as a captain would. Because a captain is meant to not only follow the rules but to uphold them for the manager. Like this is somebody who should be first to training and last to leave, and this guy is always the last one to show up. Like that's what I'm saying. Like Tony says manager analysis has to be results based. If the team gets results, this was the right thing to do. If we lose, then it disrupted the squad. Can't judge Arteta until we have our first few results. We're going to talk about that in just a second. Because that's what's going to be interesting about tomorrow. Spectrum says Aubameyang should have been benched based on form alone. In my opinion, Arteta made the right call in this situation. We will see whether Arteta is a positive presence by the end of the season. The doc will be fire. Documentary. Dublin Gooner says it's 100% on an Aubameyang. I do worry about going as far as taking the armband in the middle of the season. I hope the manager is confident most of the players are on side with this. This is again something that I want to talk about just a second. I just want to get into some of these comments. Nali Tubula says Aubameyang's issue might be personal. I mean, it was a personal issue that he went to go see his mom. But see, this is a thing that this is not the first issue that he's had. This is not the first time that he hasn't followed the rules. There was they named the ones that they could name, and it was four. And I only remember knowing about three. So I understand that he had a personal issue. And do you not think that the club would have taken that into consideration if it was something that definitely prevented him from being able to get back on time? Do you really think the club would be like, well, like he was meant to be back at a certain time and he just wasn't? So I get what people are trying to say, like, okay, he's human, he makes mistakes, all this kind of stuff. But like this is like a known thing for him not to be on time, not to come back on time, not to uphold the standards. Like I just don't understand. This isn't the first time that he's done something, you know. Um, let's see. Dave FC says, how do people feel bad for him? He's 32 years old who acts like a freaking teenager. He's just immature individual. I mean, that's just kind of like, I feel like, but he's 32. Like, he's 32 years old. Like, he should be able to do his thing. Like, you know what I mean? And again, I just don't see how he can say beyond him being like late for a game, which is just unacceptable to be late for a game. Not only that, the North London Derby, but you guys, he is breaking COVID protocol. That means that he does not give a shit about the people around him and their families. Like COVID is nothing to play around with. It's the cases are spiking as we speak. So to say, well, he made a mistake, he's human. Well, how about you think about other people and don't just, I mean, am I speaking a different language here or what? Like, he's not just late because he was in traffic. Like, he's breaking COVID protocol. Like, if that was somebody, like, come on. Come on. People's family members are dying from this shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying, But yeah. So what basically, Tony kind of brought it up, and then I think it was either Nashville or Dublin. I forget who said it. But here's where it becomes an issue a little bit, is because confirmation bias is always around. So if you are kind of thinking, you know what, I think that Arteta made a mistake and he handled this poorly. If we lose against West Ham, there will be confirmation bias from some of the fan base that he's lost the dressing room. And I don't necessarily feel like that's true. I'm going to say this right now, that losing to West Ham doesn't 100% mean that he's lost the dressing room and that what he did with Aubameyang was not right. It doesn't. We know what losing the dressing room looks like because we saw it under Unai Emery. It's obvious when they lose the dressing room. Sometimes it's not as obvious, but we have to look at a run of games. It can't just be the game against West Ham, a good team that is fighting for top four as well. Like, it can't just be that game where it confirms that Arteta made a mistake. So, but I do know that that is kind of what's coming. That for some, a loss against West Ham confirms that Arteta made the wrong decision. But I look at this team and I think, do I believe that they're going to side with Aubameyang, or do I believe that they're going to side with Arteta? Now, this is just me speculating, but the majority of the team, barring Leno, Lacazette, Aubameyang, Granit Xhaka, and Tierney, maybe, these are all his players, really. Most of them have been signed under him or have been re-signed under him. So for me, I think that, do I believe that they're going to turn on Arteta? Do I believe it? No, not really. I think that the days of Ozil and Mustafi, said Kolasinac, and these guys turning in the dressing room and it's all cliquey and they're all calculating and all of that, I don't really believe that this group is going to be like that. Again, They've been signed. They have more allegiance to Arteta, the guy that brought him in and re-signed them, than the guy that was just here. That's the captain. You know, that's going to be gone. So I just don't really understand. Like, I would be very shocked if he lost this dressing room over this because I just don't see the allegiances there that were there when Ozil was here and they were doing the thing to Emery. That I just don't see it like that. So um we'll know because this again is projection. I don't really know. We could turn around and he's a big enough character in the dressing room and has a big enough influence on the group that maybe this group does look at him as somebody that should be there and was mistreated, and they do play they he does lose the dressing room. But I personally don't believe it. I have to be honest. Like, these players were bought under Arteta or re-signed or haven't been around long enough to really, I feel like, have that with Aubameyang. So, yeah, there's that. And like Granit Xhaka, one person in particular that I look at that has no allegiances to anybody but himself. So I definitely don't see him out there walking around because Aubameyang is not in the team. Leno doesn't play. Lacazette needs to play for a new deal somewhere else. So it's going to be really difficult for me to see a team that just says, you know what, F you, Arteta, you signed me, but I'm going to side with this guy. Like, I just don't see it like that, but it'll be interesting to see. Let's see. But yeah. Tony says, I won't even look at the result or the opponent. I'll be looking at our performance versus West Ham as the indicators of was it the right thing to do, keeping an open mind. Absolutely. Like, that's the thing is I'm telling you what I think, that I am anticipating and what I believe from like what I've seen from the group. I could be completely wrong. I could be completely wrong and he could lose the dressing room. I thought that he had lost the dressing room earlier this season and I was 110% wrong. But do I see it with this group right now? No. But we know what it looks like. And Tony, you know what it looks like because we've seen it before. We know the difference between a team that just got beat and a team that is not feeling the manager. But again, there will be people that will equate a loss with him losing the dressing room in a bad decision. And I just don't feel like that's true. Let's see. Namaya says, who would you pick for the next captain? Who will Arteta pick? Yesterday, I said I would choose Gabriel. I think that he acts like a captain and he plays in a position that I think it's safe. I worry about goalkeepers and strikers. So although I love Ramsdale and I think he does have leadership ability, I think it's better to choose a central midfielder or center back. And so Ben White is not quite there for me, but I think Gabriel is showing signs of somebody that could be a captain as much as I love Kieran Tierney. And I think he has leadership qualities. I worry about, is he going to be on the pitch enough? I think your captain needs to be somebody who plays damn near every game. And then when I look at Odegaard, I just feel like, yes, he is growing in influence in the team, especially over the last 4 games or so. But I would say that at this moment in time, if I had to choose, gun to my head, I would say, oh, Gabriel. But that being said, there's a leadership group there that Arteta has spoken about. Leadership group. Every team really has a leadership group. I don't like ours that much. But it's Rob Holding, I think. I think Bellerin was in it as well. And it was Xhaka. It was Xhaka, Lacazette, Aubameyang, Holding, Bellerin, something like that. So I would imagine that either Lacazette will have it until the end of the season, or Arteta will get what he's always wanted and he'll be able to give Granit Xhaka that captain's armband back. So I think Arteta will either choose one or two of them. Again, it has to be somebody that's going to play almost every single game. And from now until the end of the season, I could easily see Xhaka playing almost every single game. So I would imagine that he'll give it to Granit. But I would choose Gabriel potentially at the end of the season as well. I think you almost have to choose somebody that's a little bit familiar. And so I don't think I would hate Arteta if he chose like one of the leadership group, but I would like it to be until the end of the season. If he gives it to Granit Xhaka, I'm afraid it's going to be his until he goes. I'm not convinced that they're going to sell him in the summer, so it would make it a little bit difficult to give it to Gabriel at the end of the season. And you guys are saying lack of leaders. Next captain, Gabriel. Mr. Austin says Lacazette will be captain in my opinion. Ramsdale for cap, in my opinion. Yo-Yo, hey Yo-Yo, says Arteta is the most powerful person at the club. No one sways the dressing room against him. I just think that when we're looking at this is, I feel like what Arteta's always kind of wanted. He wanted to be in a position where most of the players were his, so they have some sort of allegiance to him because he's not the type of manager that's going to get immediate buy-in from senior players because he's so new and anything that he does will be challenged and questioned. So he needed to kind of turn over that dressing room of those older Wenger and Emery players and start anew. So when a situation like this arises, I just don't see this group of players that have been signed by Mikel Arteta or re-signed by him turning on him. I don't. I just can't see it. I really, really can't. And I would be a little bit disappointed because for me, I feel like their main concern needs to be winning games at this point, and I view this team as a little bit more competitive and a little bit more professional than the group that just left. And when I say the group that just left, I'm talking about Mustafi, um, Socrates, David Luiz. They were some of them were really on bullshit, like they really were. But I think this group is young and hungry and need to focus on winning games and not getting caught up in bullshit. So that's just me. So let's see. Dave FC says vocal leadership is very overrated feature of captaincy. The best way to lead as a football captain is your availability and consistent performances on the pitch. I do agree that you don't necessarily have to be vocal. It's better for the fans to see people that are vocal because it feels like somebody's out there leading. But yeah, consistent performances, and I think plays for the team. You can put in consistent performances that are just for yourself. Like Mo Salah is somebody who performs consistently well and is pretty much always available, but I'm not sure that he would be captain material for Liverpool. There's also the selflessness that a captain has to have, which makes it hard to make it the goalkeeper or the striker. I think it has to be like a defender or central midfielder or something like that. But I do hear what you're saying. They don't have to yell and scream. It just looks better. So yeah. Let's see. Yo-Yo says Arteta is the most powerful person at the club. Oh yeah, you did say that. Lone Star, I hear what you're saying about Aubameyang should have never been Arsenal captain. I've disagreed with that. I said that he should have never been the captain. He should have never been re-signed. Like, I was a part of the very quiet minority that when everybody was screaming, "Sign the Ting," I was saying, why would we walk straight into the same issue that we just had with Ozil? I just don't get it. And giving him the captaincy was a joke, and I'm not saying that Arteta didn't have a hand in that, but I'm not quite sure with this like weak managerial decision and grow up thing because this is like the 11th captain in the last like whatever years that's been stripped or left the club. Like we clearly have an issue with the captaincy, and so I don't know. Like if you're saying it's a weak managerial decision because you think that Aubameyang's being targeted in some way, I would like you to explain that a little bit more because Aubameyang, I mean, if he wasn't breaking the rules, he couldn't be stripped of the captaincy. So when is it on him? Him not being captain material, he actually accepted becoming the captain. So either he asked for it or Arteta said, "I would like to make you captain," and he said, "Yes, I would take it." So he has responsibility here. If you don't want to be captain and you don't want the responsibility, then don't accept the armband. So there's blame on both parts, but the blame still goes to Aubameyang. I don't really understand I don't understand the comment because Just because he shouldn't have been captain in the first place doesn't mean that we shouldn't have expectations of him when he has it on his arm, you know? Let's see. Yo-Yo says, "You don't need one captain, you need a team full of leaders. Look at the current Prem champions. They pass the armband around like it's VID-19, COVID-19." Um, yeah, no, I think but I mean, do you guys think that that's what we're building? Do you guys think that, the fact that people are naming multiple people and Kieran Tierney and Ramsdale and Gabrielle and some people saying Ben White and Odegaard, that we are building something like that? I mean, not to mention even Sambi Lakanga, who I think has a great mindset in terms of somebody who, went through some difficult things in the first couple of games that he had and was able to rebound from it, obviously been a captain before of his club. So maybe we are building that, but they're not quite there yet, but in the meantime, we need somebody to kind of wear that armband. So yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah. And do you guys think English is a big thing? Because I'm saying English has to be a big thing, like being able to speak the language. And maybe that would be some pushback when it comes to Gabrielle. But I don't think Vieira spoke very good English when he first came to Arsenal, and maybe by the time he got the armband, he spoke it a lot better. And it also, I know Arsen, like, forced you to take English lessons, like, if you didn't know English, you couldn't play. Um, I remember those days. I don't know if Arteta does the same thing, but I don't know if I feel that strongly that, like, that you need to be, like, really good at English, you know? I don't know if I feel that way, but I still think Gabrielle is the best choice out of who we're looking at. Um, let's see. Lacazette for now. I mean, would you guys feel more comfortable with Lacazette because it's not Granite? I mean, I think Lacazette does an okay job, and I think out of the two of him and Aubameyang, I think he's clearly more, at least on the surface level, invested in being a good-ish role model kind of person for the younger players. So, I mean, maybe they would, you know, like him a little bit more. I don't know. And Lacazette also being temporary would force Arteta to have to choose somebody else at the end of the season, which I would prefer. I am I am a little bit like, oh, if you give it to Granite and they don't sell him, that he'll be the captain until he leaves. And bleh, nobody wants that. Um, I look sleepy because I am. Um, I am. And I'm tired of this Aubameyang shit. But yes, yes, I am persevering through it all. Um, let's see. Tony says it's Laka because he's next man up for the season. I don't expect a formal announcement until next season. I mean, yeah. But it just all kind of depends on these next couple of games. It could easily become, I mean, we're playing West Ham and then we're playing Leeds, right? And then who do we play after that? I would say let's give it um let's see. 3 let's see. Let me check. Let's see. Arsenal. Okay, so we play West Ham, then Leeds, and then Norwich. We'll know for sure if he's lost the dressing room because we should be able to beat Leeds and Norwich. I know they're both away games, but we should be able to beat both of them. So West Ham is tricky. I can see again the confirmation bias coming in if we don't win that game. But it all depends, like Tony said, on the performances, and we'll know if he's lost the dressing room if we go on some weird run. But what I can say is that the last 2 times that Aubameyang has been dropped from the team for disciplinary issues, the team has not only won the games, but they played really well. So I'm not sure if I believe this whole capitulation thing is going to happen, but it was interesting waking up to that news. Arteta does like to he is quite heavy-handed when he really feels like it. So we'll see what happens. But there's about 131 of you guys watching. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Now let's get to the fun part. This is really what I wanted to talk about today. I just love actually talking about the football part of stuff. Like this just gets so boring. Um, but the West Ham game, this is a very important game because if we win, we'll be in fourth place. So, but we've had these situations before and they didn't go right, so I am nervous about it. But I don't know, I feel weird. Like, I feel weird, like, we could potentially get something from this game, but I don't know if it's because the last game that they played, they drew against Burnley, and then the last game that we played, we beat up on a really bad Southampton team, and we're at home, so I'm thinking to myself, like, "Oh, we have a chance," but it's not gonna be like Southampton. I know it's not. They're a way better team. They've been on a very good run, and the one thing that I will say about West Ham is that they're well coached, they're very organized, and they're physical and they play good football. At first I was like, maybe Moyes is just gonna play that really compact and on the counter attack kind of Stokish, I don't know, kind of way of playing. I don't know, more Burnley style. But they actually play good football. And they haven't quite fallen off like I anticipated them doing, and they've continued this form, um, quite consistent form from last season, which a lot of people thought was a fluke. So they're the real deal. They're the real deal. And so we have to they're a team that, unlike us, has been able to take points off of the big teams. I think they beat all the big teams this season. Um, in one way or another, either in the cup or in the league. And when they play against the big teams, they don't look scared. So I'm not thinking that they're going to be scared to go to the Emirates and play against Arsenal. Um, the last time that we played them, I thought that we did a good job to come back from 3-0 down, but I also thought that they allowed us to come back from 3-0 down. I thought they took the foot off the gas and allowed us to play in the way that we like to, and they kind of capitulated, but not taking anything away from us. I thought that that was one of the best 45 minutes of our midfield clicking together, and I believe it was Granite, Odegaard, and Thomas Partey who I would anticipate playing against West Ham this time around. So it's going to be really interesting. Um, I think this one could go either way. I'm feeling a draw, but I am feeling like we could get something from it. But in terms of injuries and availability, I think everybody is available. If not, except for Aubameyang. Um, so Arteta has some decisions to make, some really interesting decisions to make um, in terms of that front four. I think we can probably say that we don't think Pepe will play, but between Odegaard, ESR, Martinelli, Saka, and Lacazette, he needs to make a decision. And so it's going to be interesting to see what he does. Um, it could go either way. Are you guys feeling confident? Um, now, I'm just going to say this that I think Arsenal play better when they're not under pressure. And with this little bit of this Aubameyang situation, and knowing that if they beat West Ham, they'll be in the top 4. I do think that there is some pressure to perform. So, do I think that I'll see a different team than I did against Southampton? Yes. That was a team that was full of confidence. The other team kind of let us do our thing, and there was relatively no pressure on us, really. This is going to be different. And we had an opportunity to jump, I think, in the top 4 or really close to it against Man United. Same thing against Everton, and we really just didn't do well. So I think the pressure might get to us, but this is the best opportunity that we've had yet, in my opinion, to make that jump because we're at home. We're playing against a team that I think we match up okay with, and we just won a game and they just drew a game and they haven't looked as good as they looked in the beginning of the season. So, yeah, it's yeah, we have some pressure on us, but this is our chance, really, not to like really put it up on a pedestal, but this is our chance to like at least there's the points aspect of things where if we don't win this game, that doesn't necessarily mean that all is lost. But we know from a confidence perspective, from a narrative perspective, it's going to be, I think it's going to be important for this team to get one of these over, to play against a team that's not particularly in bad form, that's in and around us, if not above us, and winning the game. And we're at home, so it's going to be a tough, tough test, but we might be able to do it. Kurumi says, "We crack under pressure. I hope we show you tomorrow simple." Okay. Um, Dublin Gooner says, "Confidence is not something I can muster lately. I can get as far as hope." And that's fair enough. Ivy says, "Arsenal home record is good this season. We only lost one game so far, but confident, no." And I hear that because regardless if we're home or not, I feel like there's different things that give you more more leverage than others. I think home in a way is a big one, but I think the level of the team that you're playing is more important than that. So just because we're at home, I don't necessarily have think we have that much better of a chance beating Liverpool than we do away, if that makes sense. And so when I look at it, even though I think West Ham is nowhere near as good as Liverpool, I think they're one of those types of teams where almost home and away for us doesn't really give us as much leverage as it would against a Southampton or a Villa or a Leeds. So I don't necessarily feel like being home really gives us that much of an advantage if we don't step up and actually play. And I don't necessarily see very many advantages across the pitch when you look at their midfield, when you look at their front line. I think their midfield is probably a lot more secure than ours is at the moment. As long as Suchek and Declan Rice are there and there's no injuries from those two players, they're pretty much, I think they have a more consistent and a better informed midfield than we do at the moment. And then when you look up top, Bowen, Antonio, Fornals. He was so crap before, and now he's all of a sudden like pretty decent. Ben Rama, these players, they're just what they do is even if they're not really playing well, they still play hard. So you can't really ever count them out, even if they're not in great form. So attacking wise, they're better than us. I would say their midfield is more in form, although I would say if Thomas Partey, Granit Xhaka, and Odegaard are on their game, they can cause them issues. Then it goes to their back line, and that's where they've been decimated a little bit as of lately. They've lost Agbana, they've lost Kurt Zuma. So that is where I see there. I think Cresswell is also a little bit on the, you know, on the this, like he might not be ready to go. So that's where the advantage really lies for us is that they're not going to have their first choice defense there. I remember they had one guy back there. He was so bad. He kicked the ball in the back of his own net the last time that we played them. Dawson, if they play him, we might have a chance. But that's really where the advantage is for us is that they don't have a great defense. The advantage for them is their offense is a lot more potent than ours is, and it doesn't really matter who plays with their offense, they still tend to cause issues. The biggest matchup obviously will be Antonio versus Gabriel, which may end up being Antonio versus Ben White because if I'm David Moyes, I would prefer him to be on Ben White than on Gabriel. And if he decides to drift over to that side, I think we could be in trouble. I love Ben. I think Ben is he's getting better, but do I think he'll pass the Antonio test? I'm not sure. So I think that's where the advantage comes in for them, but they don't have their best defense. They don't have their they have a better offense, but our defense is okay. So it could really go either way. Um, Set pieces are their biggest threat. Yeah, so that could also nullify our, because they're good on offensive set pieces. We're good on offensive set pieces. But we've also scored against teams that were horrible, like defending horribly on set pieces. So we may not have that opportunity to take advantage of set pieces. But I think we're good on defensive set pieces as well. So I don't know if necessarily for either one of us that is an attack, like, or is an advantage. Because I think we're good at them, they're good at them, we're good at defending them, they're decent at defending them. But that is something that they do have and we have to be aware of. I think Tomiyasu, Ramsdale, and Gabrielle have really helped us in that regard. Um, let's see. Let's see. Dave FC says, "You don't rate Dawson, but he's very good in the air." No, I don't. When I saw him kick the ball in the back of the net for against us last year, I was like, I want that guy to play every week. Because he's not very great, is he? Let's see. Karumi says to play against Mikhail, you don't fight him for space. Simple. Um, that the thing about it is like I think remember that game, the first game that we saw Pablo Marie play against Mikel Antonio, and he was getting bodied on the halfway line. Do you guys remember that? And then the next time we played them, Gabrielle did a lot better against him. So I do think it's going to be a good matchup. I think Antonio has grown in confidence over the last 6 to 12 months. So it's going to be different. An informed, confident Mikel Antonio is different than the one that Gabriel played against at the beginning of last season. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I do agree that I think you have to be really careful with him because you can't bump him off the ball. I think you can get close, but you kind of have to give him a little bit of space. He's not great on the ball. So I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do it. I'm not a defensive coach. I just know Gabrielle needs to be on it. But I just have this weird feeling that he'll drift closer to Ben White because if I was him, that's who I'd want to play against. Um, let's see. I worry about Dawson on a corner. Watch him score now. Masuaku, Masuaku. He did score a really nice goal against Liverpool, even though I think it was luck. Um, let's see. O'Malley says controlling Rice's driving runs and their set pieces will be key. Set pieces, not giving away silly fouls. That's when you probably need to talk to Lacazette and say, please don't give away silly fouls. You know, kind of like in between the center circle and the penalty box. He tends to do that sometimes and get really rash. That would be dumb. And then the Declan Rice thing is interesting, because he definitely runs their midfield. He's a very good player. And so it's I think Xhaka and Party are gonna have a difficult time in midfield because they're not gonna be dumb enough to allow Thomas Partey to just receive the ball off of the back line and dictate play. They're going to sit on top of him, I think, and that's what I would do. And then you leave Granit Xhaka, who's just coming back off an injury, wide open. And so it's gonna be difficult, and if we do get into that thing where we can't find Odegaard and we end up hitting it to the left to Kieran Tierney and trying to hit it into the box, hit and hope. I don't necessarily feel like we'll get much joy from that. So, yeah, I think the midfield battle is going to be difficult if we don't engage Rice and Suchek. If we just allow them to do whatever they want to do and drop off, we're in trouble. But this is a game that I would like to see Xhaka and Thomas Partey engage with their midfield and try to win second balls, try to bump them off the ball, try to press them a little bit. Because if you just let them dictate play, that's going to be it. And they're not going to let you have space. So why would you let them have space? So it's the midfield is going to be really important. Like you guys already said, set pieces are going to be important. And I think getting the first goal is going to be really important. I don't think it's going to be they score 3 and we score 3 on the bounce. I really do think that it'll be a lot closer than that. So whoever scores the first goal, I think will have the advantage, and it kind of needs to be us. So it's going to be interesting. Would I take Rice over Party? I don't know. Why are you guys asking me this question? Um, they play 2 different positions and they're 2 completely different players, so I just don't think I can, you know, I could, pick one or the other That's my answer. But personally, I mean, if I had to choose somebody to sit in next to Thomas Partey, it would be Declan Rice, like somebody like that. But I can't shit on my boy. I can't do it. I won't do it. All right. So now the most important I think conversation is because we know who the back five is going to be. I don't think would you guys take out Kieran Tierney now and put Tavares back in? I don't think so. If you guys think that Tavares should come back in, let me know. But yeah, I think it'll be the Tomiyasu, Ramsdale, White, and Gabrielle. Kieran Tierney. Um, I don't think the midfield will change. If it did, I'd be really surprised. At this point, it kind of has to be Lacazette up front. So let's go ahead and do the lineup. You guys, I'm not going to say anything bad about Thomas Partey anymore. It just hurt me so much. These last couple of weeks have been brutal. Just let me live. Okay, so Ramsdale, Gabrielle. I always get upset that he's not one of the first ones that pop up. It's actually offensive. All right, so and then White. Please don't get bodied. Please don't get bodied. I can't handle it. Tommy. And then, so do you guys think Tavares is going to come back in? Do you think Kieran Tierney keeps his spot? Did he do enough for you guys? What do you think? I can't do the Thomas Party talk right now. It's just too hurtful. You guys let me know if you think that Kieran Tierney keeps his spot. Okay, I see a lot of Kieran Tierney keeps his spot. So I thought he played pretty well. And when he was out there, I thought, I missed you. Okay, so that's pretty much, oh, wrong formation. What I think will be happening. It's pretty self explanatory. Now, the midfield, I think Arteta has his first choice midfield available to him. I think this is kind of what we need to play until AFCON comes around and Thomas Partey has to go. We need to build that partnership back up. This is not me saying that I love Granit. He's the best midfielder. He should never be dropped. What I am saying is that midfield, in particular, center back pairings and central midfield pairings are so important. And we're just not at that point where we can chop and change and kind of move pieces around and it's still the same. It just doesn't work out that way. So for me, I think Granit Xhaka is obviously going to stay in and probably should. And then Thomas Partey, who needs to show up or else we are finished. Because my thing with Thomas is that, like, if he plays bad, we play bad. There is no other option. He has to play well. He needs to be a release valve for us. He needs to be involved. He needs to find ways to get on the ball. He needs to be confident because we really count on him to break the lines, whether he does it by dribbling and bursting past the opposition or passing in between the lines. We really suffer so much when he doesn't get on the ball. And the next person who usually ends up suffering is Martin Odegaard. Martin had a good game, in my opinion, against Southampton because Thomas Partey was getting on the ball more and he was hitting those really nice balls in between the lines. And we just been missing that over the last couple of games. I think if Partey doesn't play well, then Odegaard inevitably doesn't get as much service. And he ends up being on the periphery and then going so wide to try to figure out how to get involved in the game. And the last thing you really want is Odegaard out on the right-hand side, standing next to Bukayo Saka and Tomiyasu. So I really think Thomas Partey is the key to this. If he has a shitty game, we're finished. So he really needs to be that $45 million walk up to Atletico Madrid with a briefcase full of cash, we're taking your player type of guy that has the song about him. He has to be that tomorrow or else we're done. And then so in the cam position, obviously, I think Odegaard has done everything to keep his spot. There's no reason to take him out of the team. There's no reason to put Lacazette at that 10 role right now because even Aubameyang is not going to play. So I think he keeps his spot. And for me, this is our best midfield. I love ESR, but I don't think at this point when he's played in the 10 role, I don't think he has done as much as Odegaard has been able to do. When he plays off on the left, he's just fine. But this is our best midfield, and this is the midfield that played well for 45 minutes against West Ham last season. So I'd like to see it again. But do you guys have anything different, or are you guys okay with that midfield? Mr. Austin says, Jess, you love Xhaka. No need to hide it. When I thought he was leaving over the summer, whew, yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, we were free. And he's still here. So there you go. Let's see. Nali Tuba says West Ham away record is why they lose tomorrow. Alistair says, big up, Jess, big up to you as well. Pap says, I think he starts the same 11. Yo-Yo says, I think Martinelli is better off the bench than ESR. Laka won't last 90 minutes. Oh no. No, 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 no. Okay, so here's where it gets interesting. So Martinelli has played so well over these last like 3 or 4 games. I think he could have had a couple of goals, one against Man United, and he probably should have had one against Southampton. But he did score against Newcastle, and every game that he's played in, barring the Everton game, where everybody was crap, I think he's been one of our most dangerous players. I mean, he made Livermento look so bad, and it was great because I was tired of hearing about him. But Martinelli just gives us something. Watching Martinelli on one side and Saka on the other just reminded me that that balance is so important. Um, if you have ESR on the left and Saka on the right, you have a lot of players that like to defer to other players, and Martinelli tends to be like, I'm actually just gonna do it myself. I think his directness and ability to run in behind gives us a different option if we're in trouble. The ball that Ramsdale hit to Martinelli into space is not something that you would see with ESR because he tends to want to come short. Saka wants to come short. Lacazette wants to come short. Odegaard wants to come short. And we have absolutely nobody that likes to run in behind. And so I worry about taking him out of the team and going back to the ESR thing because then you have nobody that likes to run in behind, nobody that's particularly direct. And so you basically have 3 number 10s out there in Saka and asking them to score goals. And personally, if I'm who's the boy over there? Ben Johnson on their right-hand side. I think that's his name. If you ask me who would I prefer to play against, would I prefer to play against ESR or Martinelli? I'd probably say, give me ESR because I know he's going to come short. He's not going to be as direct. That's not to say that ESR is not a great player and that he doesn't have his own qualities that are really difficult to defend against. I think his ball carrying might be important in this game. If for some reason they are sitting on top of Thomas Partey or Thomas Partey has a bad game, we will need somebody that can drop deep and carry us up the pitch. So that is not something that I think Martinelli is better than ESR at. But I wonder where the goals come from with Lacazette, Odegaard, ESR, and Saka. But that being said, if Lacazette needs to come out at the 60th minute, would you rather ESR coming in or would you rather Martinelli coming in off the bench fresh? Personally, I think Martinelli has the legs to run for 90 minutes. So if Lacazette needed to come out and you wanted to bring ESR on the left and move Martinelli through the center, I think you could do that and nothing would really happen. He's a young kid that hasn't played much football. So I don't necessarily feel like he needs to come off of the bench to have an impact. But what do you guys think? What do you guys think? I personally am leaning towards keeping things the way that they are. Martinelli looked great off of that left-hand side, and him and Saka that just gave us the balance that we needed that I don't necessarily always see with ESR. They're 2 great players that want to come short, and we need a different option in behind. Lacazette is not going to run in behind, and we just need something a little bit different. Too many players wanting to come short is not always a good thing. So let's see what you guys are saying. Mr. Austin says Martinelli was running rampant against West Ham in that 3-1 game. Need that feeling again. Was that game? Was that game where Ljungberg was the manager. Was it that game? I remember there was one game, and I think he played Aubameyang, Pepe, and Martinelli up front. I think that's the game you're talking about. That was a good game. Um, Mark says, Odegaard is the player I fear as a West Ham fan. Oh, you fear somebody? I like that. Thank you. Yo-Yo says, Arteta plays fine margin football. Martinelli in the second half could prove pivotal. But could he not just move him central? You know, I mean, does he have to come off the bench to be that option? Um, Tony says extra midfielders is a good shout. Saka and ESR are good in the middle. I mean, that's if we anticipate us losing a midfielder due to poor form or West Ham being smart enough to sit on top of Thomas Partey. If you watched any games over the last couple, like 3 or 4 games, you would say double team Thomas Partey, leave Granit Xhaka open. And then that way you won't be able to get it to Martin Odegaard because Xhaka will defer right back to kicking it to Kieran Tierney if that's the case. So, then at that point, if that were to happen, then you would need ESR out there to get somebody else to progress the ball from deep. So it just depends on if you think that West Ham is going to be smart or if you think Thomas Partey is going to have a good game. Because really the reason why we were so good in the second half against West Ham in the 3-3 was because they sat off of us and stopped playing. And if they're going to engage from minute one, it's not going to be that easy. So maybe you do need to have ESR in the game. Tony says, I really want to see Saka get an off the bench appearance. That boy could have one leg and he would still start games. Let's keep it real. Dublin says, no harm in ESR getting a break and no harm in Martinelli getting a run. I mean, I personally think Martinelli should stay in, and then if we need ESR, Martinelli can move central, or you could take him out and leave Lacazette in. But he's just playing so well. You can't tell me that he has not been exciting. And I know ESR has scored more goals than him, but if he had a longer run in the team, I do think he would be fine. Martinelli needs to take his chances now. Martinelli needs to start the game. ESR, Gabby, Saka front three. Duran says, I hate Arsenal fans. We don't like you either. Bye. No, I'm just kidding. Oh gosh. Okay, you're gone. Now you're saying weird stuff. Bye. Have fun. Okay, RBK says Saka is balling right now. Yeah, he is. He's actually playing really well. So, and Yo-Yo says, I don't think there's a wrong decision because with Abba out, Martinelli will continue seizing his opportunity. So for me personally, you guys, I'm going to leave Martinelli in the team. I just don't feel like I think a run in the team and with the way that he's been playing, he's just somebody that I just don't think people want to play against. Mikhail Saka keeps his spot. And then personally, I think Lacazette starts up front. And then if things go awry, you can take Lacazette out, move Martinelli central, and put ESR out on the left, if things don't go the way that you anticipate them going. And that's pretty much what I would do. This is close to our strongest team. And this is the thing that we kind of need. Like, we need competition for places and options, and that's what we're having now. I mean, we're talking about having the opportunity to bring ESR off of the bench, Sambi off of the bench, if we need something different. So I don't think we're necessarily in a bad position, but for me, I keep Martinelli in the team. Don't think he's done anything to lose the spot. And ESR will come in and score a goal. We know he will. So let's see. Twisted, what is Saka's specialist position? It's a rivalry type of question. What does he do that's good? I mean, he's not particularly elite in anything that he does. He's just one of those players that can pretty much play in any position and be really, really good. He doesn't have a specialist position. I have a feeling there will be a red tomorrow. Yo-Yo, why would you put that out? Why would you put that out there? Why would you say that? And yeah, I think African Soldier says, I think drop Saka for ESR. Saka ain't getting dropped. I mean, I'm telling you, that boy could have one leg and still be playing. So, and I think he played really well against Southampton and was unlucky not to get a goal. So, I think he keeps his spot. I think there's nothing wrong with ESR having to work his way back into this team. I mean, he got a little bit of a knock, came out. Martinelli's played really well. But equally, I could see ESR coming straight back in because if I'm West Ham, I will try to keep Party off of the ball, and that will leave us a midfielder short. So having ESR drop in deep and kind of get us up the pitch, if that were to happen, would be a good option. Um, y'all still trying to put Nuno as a midfielder. I don't know why. I just don't think he can play midfield. I think he's a wing back at best. So yeah, but that's what I think I would choose. Ramsdale, Tomiyasu, White, Tierney, and Gabrielle, with Thomas Partey, Xhaka, and Odegaard in midfield. Bukayo Saka, Martinelli, and Lacazette up top, with the option to bring ESR off of the bench. Now, before we go ahead and get out of here, I want to hear score predictions. What do you think is going to happen? Who do you think is going to score? What do you think is going to happen? Are you confident? That's what I want to know. Yo-Yo says, didn't say for Arsenal. I just think the occasion will get to somebody. I mean, if it's going to get to anybody, who's it going to get to? Free Pepe. You guys, I don't even consider him anymore. Sometimes I'm just like, does he exist? Pepe. The Pepe people. Ahmed, will my boy Pepe get more chances now that Abba's gone? I don't think so. I don't necessarily think so, because you have ESR and Martinelli and Saka playing in those positions already, and then Pepe will go to the African Cup of Nations. So I'm not sure where those chances are going to come from. Sunderland, he'll probably play against them. Augustine says Arsenal 2. Okay, so we get 2 and they get 0. Solomon says 2-1 to the Arsenal. Jaden says 1-0 to the Arsenal. Mohammed says Rice will disgrace Party. That's harsh. Mr. Austin says 2-1 Martinelli goal and assist. Dublin Gooner says feels like a 1-1. Twisted says 1-1. Ahmed says 2-1 to us. To Shapiso says 2-1 to Arsenal. Tony Glove says Arsenal 0, West Ham 1. Adian says late goal 1-0 to the Arsenal. Party to score. Don't know about that one. Yo-Yo 1-0 to the Arsenal. Faz says Martinelli brace. You guys sound more confident than you guys sounded earlier when we were talking. Nobody was talking about a win before. Mary Chris says 2-1. I've been saying Laka and Martinelli second half winner after Antonio ties it up. Mohammed says 2-2, sad but true. Tony says Party Screamer and a Nelly simple good shot 2-0. Austin says, to be fair, Jess, you did give Pepe a chance. I wanted Pepe to work, you guys. I wanted Pepe to work. I did. Does he exist? Okay, Mark Alexander says 2-2. I take that as a hammer. I mean, I do. I mean, if somebody said that we drew the game now, I'd be like, okay, cool, I'll take that. But that's also because I just, as much as I want us to make it into that top 4, I'm just not sure that I believe that we're going to. And so, but that being said, I want to see the performance. Like, I've yet to really see us perform really well and not get the points, if that makes sense. So every game that we've lost and drawn, in my opinion, I think the performances were shit. It doesn't really happen that often where you play really well and you just lost off of a really good goal. We tend to just kind of like, when we lose, we just give it to them, you know, or we draw, we just give it to them. So what I will say is that, like, I don't know if it can happen, but if we had a really good performance and we happened to not get all 3 points, I think I'd be like, okay, cool. You know, but that being said, we should be getting something from this game, should we not? 1-1, London draw. 1-1. Nemaya says 3-1. Gabrielle Martinelli. Party has scored his first goal already, Nehemiah. He scored against Aston Villa. Yeah, I will never forget that. Blaze says, hi, Jess. I'm not confident about tomorrow, so it'll be 1-1. Faz says 2-1 Martinelli brace. Sohan says 2-2 will be high scoring. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Here comes the webcam people again. Block them. Tony says, we are all disappointed parent when it comes to Pepe. Yeah, I think that's the thing is like, I really wanted it to work out, but I have to be honest, I didn't really want him because I thought we needed a defender and a central midfielder and we didn't get it and we ended up with him. So I think my patience was a little bit less. I was a little bit less patient with him than I probably should have at the beginning, but I am disappointed that it hasn't worked out. Sometimes I wish that he would just come out there and change my mind, but I just don't think he's going to work out. Yeah, but that's going to be it, you guys. I do have recording something soon, so we will go now. It's been 1 hour and 11 minutes, so I think that that's long enough. But if you just came, you can obviously start it over and see the whole talk about Aubameyang, because we did talk about that towards the beginning. Again, Arsenal Vision before the game tomorrow to do the live stream, the pre-match live stream, and then I'll be doing player ratings after that. So make sure you guys are all up and through. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. And I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Hopefully we win, you guys. All right, bye guys. See you later.